Awesome. Well, hey, listen, guys, I'm really excited for our next guest. His name is John Madson, and he's a highly sought after consultant who teaches high performance individuals and executive teams how to automate championship behavior to get championship results. His clientele ranges from Olympians, MLB players, NFL players, and corporate execs to the ordinary dude like me who just wants to win. Despite never playing a single down of high school football, John reached his childhood dream of playing in the NFL with the Oakland Raiders after playing for the University of Utah under legendary coach Urban Meyer. On his popular podcast, The Show with John, his mission is to teach high performance behavior and mindset for people who refuse to settle for the average AF life. We all know what that means. John bought a gym after leaving the NFL, and when COVID hit, he moved it to an online training platform called Suprahuman, and that's how he grew his business to multiple six figures a month in subscriptions, and is having a massive impact in our space. Today, he's going to be sharing how vision has played a big role in learning the business side of growing online, and what it took to close his gym, and from what I understand, never reopen it. He's done this through social media advertising on platforms like LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and his vision is what has helped him start scaling his ads and give him the strength to do what's challenging for a lot of us guys, including myself. This is where I really resonated with John, is his vision has allowed him to dig into the nitty-gritty of learning his numbers, figuring out his LTV, and getting the intel that has allowed him to really blow up his business. I believe he's got more than 20 full-time employees, salespeople, and operations people, and coaches who want to come and learn his methodologies. So if you're ready and interested to learn what it looks like to build a full-fledged company in the fitness space and build an amazing brand, get ready. Turn all your distractions off. If you're just joining us right now, grab a fresh pen, a fresh pad of paper, get ready to take some notes. And John, welcome, brother.
Thank you for having me, man. I appreciate the introduction, man. And I'm excited to be here and hopefully provide as much value as I possibly can to the audience.
Absolutely, man. So why don't you just tell us a bit about your business, for anybody who doesn't know you, like who you are, where you're from, family, what you do, and then we'll dive into some more of the formal questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Like Vince said in the introduction, background kind of hero's journey was that I never played a single down of high school football and ended up living out a childhood dream playing for the Oakland Raiders. Was never really a star, but I was on the active roster, scored a couple touchdowns, lived a dream. But the short story of that was I was 27 years old, and I wasn't one of those guys who made millions and millions of dollars and could not do anything for the rest of my life. And so I knew that my second passion was fitness. And so very immediately I decided to open up a gym in Salt Lake City where I wanted to teach the high school kid that reminded me of myself. And I wanted to teach, I knew that I could provide a ton of value in terms of what it was going to take if that young athlete wanted to fulfill their dreams. And so over about the next 8 years, we were able to help hundreds of high school athletes earn college scholarships through sport. And we did a lot of physical training, but I knew that the real work was the 6 inches between their ears. And so I was known for that in the space. About 4 years ago, me and my wife had our first daughter, and just like a lot of you guys who are in the physical gym space, I found myself needing to be at the gym, opening up the doors at 5 a.m. and having a really weird schedule where I was getting home at night, like 9 o'clock at night. And I didn't want to be a father that missed stuff for my daughter. And so that was like the first time where I knew that if I was going to stay in this industry, I was going to have to do it differently. So I started dabbling with online training. And I say dabbling because I thought I was trying, but I wasn't all in yet. And so I had this vision of a life of freedom. I had this vision of a life that I wanted to provide for my family. And although it took, some years of trying to tinker and figure it out, eventually I got to the place where I am now, where I have a ton of freedom. I get to live passionately about what I believe in, and I get to impact people all over the world. And so, although, you know, Business Insider wrote Vince, you'll probably get a kick out of this. Business Insider wrote an article about me about a year ago, and it was like, you know, an overnight success story. But it was one of those, it took me 10 years to get there, and they left all that out and was like, you know, John Madson is doing all this revenue and blah, blah, blah. And it was like, dude, that took 10 years, you know? So I'm happy to say I've arrived at a place where I'm really proud of, but it's not even close to where I want to be.
Like that, blissfully dissatisfied, right?
Yeah.
Tell me a bit about your core values. What are several values that drive your company's decisions? And maybe they were related to your upbringing, your story. I'd love to hear about those.
Yeah, we basically have 5 core values, and I'm actually going to share the core values that I have. If a client was to come into our ecosystem, they would actually get a core value card. It actually looks, you know, just like this, and it's mailed out to them immediately, because the core values are supremely important to the mission of Superhuman. And the first one that I always speak about, if I get asked to speak on stage, this one is always at the forefront of what I'm going to speak about. And I want you guys to really hear me when I say this. Core value number 1 is give yourself permission to win. There's something very powerful in that. I was a kid who never had the red carpet laid out for him. I wasn't a 5-star recruit. I wasn't getting recruited all over the nation like some of these kids. I was a kid without a single scholarship at the end of my high school career, and decided to play another sport. I went and walked on to a junior college about an hour and a half away from Salt Lake City. And after I redshirted and then played my freshman year, I personally drove up to the University of Utah, which was in my hometown, and knocked on the football office's doors with a highlight film. I wasn't invited. I didn't make an appointment, right? And so many people stop on their dreams just because a door seems shut, right? And so throughout my whole life, I've been able to, and it's gotten stronger over time, I was able to understand that I was able to anoint myself with this permission that it's okay to win. And so many people are like joining these programs and they're like, man, I want to succeed. I really want to build this business. And it's like this want, but they're almost waiting for somebody. Sometimes they're waiting for you, Vince, to like knight them and say, it's okay. Like you can win. Right. And it's like this thing that I see in people, even when they come into my program, where they're like, we want to change their lives. We want to help them commit to excellence. It's like they need a voice to say, it's okay. Like you can do this for you. And so core value number 1 for me, and you guys should adopt this way of thinking really quickly, is give yourself permission to receive your dreams. So many people are in their own way. And so that's core value number 1. Core value number 2 is always represent your best self. Okay. Like I geek out about this one because obviously I'm in the fitness space, but when you go to an airport and it's really apparent now. I always say, like, you can go to an airport in any city in America, and if you watch 100 people, you realize that 90% of people are just drifting through life, right? They're the ones that are walking through the airport. They have their pillows, they're in their pajamas half the time. It's like, you look at them and you know they're not representing what they could become, right? And then out of the next 10, right, we'll call it the top 10%, you have probably 8 that are trying, that are doing pretty well. They might go to the gym, they might, watch what they eat a little bit, they care about what their appearance is, right? But they're just in the top 10%. I always say that there's probably 2 people out of 100. There's 2 people out of 100. When they walk by, you can see excellence almost drip off of them, right? You can see excellence drip off of them. It's a physical thing, but it's a mental thing, it's an emotional thing, and it's a spiritual thing, right? But you can feel it when those people walk by or when you have an interaction with them. So core value number 2, when someone comes into my program, is always represent your best self, which is your highest self, which is your potential. And it's not like we're ever going to meet that person, but we can chase it. And the physical part of it is important, and people want to act like it's not. So if someone works with us, representing their best self is important. I say, if I see you at the airport and you're wearing pajamas, carrying it, and not caring about what you're representing, I'm going to kick you out of the program. Not in a mean way, in a loving way, right? Number 3 is take extreme ownership, right? So if a person comes into, and I think it's important here, like if you're going to build a movement, you have to build in these things so people buy in the beginning, and so you can remind them in the middle. So taking extreme ownership for me is that if Vince came into my program, I expect 100% from him, right? I expect 100% from him, and he should expect 100% from me. It's not 50-50, right? It's 100% Vince, like you are going to give your 100% and I'm going to provide my 100%. So for us, taking extreme ownership is the way that I do life, which is taking ownership over everything, never being a victim. If something seemingly outside my control happens, I ask myself, how could I have impacted this differently, right? So that 100% ownership is really, really important. And I think it's really easy for people to take 90% or 99% ownership, but the real magic is when you take 100% ownership, right? Number 4 is help yourself first and then help someone else, right? Help yourself first and then help someone else. That's important because just like in the airlines, which you've heard this analogy over and over again, it's like, hey, put your oxygen mask on first before you help somebody else, right? So many moms, so many dads are trying to help other people and they're pouring from an empty cup, right? They're pouring from an empty cup. You have to fill your cup up first so you have more to give. Notice here too, if this is on a card that I'm sending out, help yourself first and then help someone else. That's like presupposing that they're going to share this for referrals, because like in this business, you want referrals. So it's kind of built into the core values. We talk about this. It's like, hey, get your stuff together and then go tell someone about it so that they can get their stuff together too. Cool. And then the last one, supremely important, is always focus on what you want and then follow through. Most people are so consumed with focusing on what they don't want, it's that they wish that into existence. Some people are like, hey, John, like the law of attraction is BS. It doesn't work. Well, it does work. You're just getting everything you don't want because you focus on it, right? So core value number 5 for us is relentlessly focus on what you want. Pay no attention to what you don't want. And then by all means, go follow through. And so those are the 5 core values that we live by in our organization and also with our clientele.
Love it. That's fantastic. That card, I hope everybody made a note to make that. That's brilliant. And I'd love to hear, what's the problem your organization is solving?
Mediocrity. And I really meant that to be short. Like I could elaborate, but guys, my niche is very narrow. Very narrow. People want to, like, people try to rip my stuff all the time, which is fine. Like in the marketing world, it's all good. Like I could give my funnel away for free. It doesn't matter, right? Because the message makes it narrow, right? And my message is connecting CEOs, business owners, entrepreneurs, people in the C-suite, high-paying executives. That's who, that's out of our 600 very high-ticket customers in fitness. That's who makes up of our customer base. And people's like, John, how do you attract those? Like, what's the targeting like? The targeting doesn't matter. It's the messaging, right? And so where I was going with that is I know that, like, because I'm speaking to myself a lot of the time, if I fear one thing or I hate one thing, it's mediocrity. And so when I speak that to the right audience, it's like, these guys are winning. If you watch any of my stuff, I'm like, guy, you're already driving 2 Mercedes-Benz. You live in the suburb. You have a wife that loves you. You take these fancy vacations. Your life is good, man. In fact, it's better than most of your friends. And then there's this one very, very apparent problem in your physicality that you, despite effort, going to the gym, doing intermittent fasting, or doing whatever you want to do, you still look very mediocre. And with a simple shift, I can fix that for you. because if you roll with Supra, we have this commitment to excellence. And so the opposite of mediocrity to me is excellence. And so I'm not selling fitness, I'm selling excellence, and people are buying into the excellence because they hate mediocrity. Why? Because they're type A driven, want to win individuals, and I can dig into that pain and then sell them the dream.
Let's take it a next step. You just described who your organization is helping, but like, all right, these men get their shit together. Let's take it. Who are you really helping now? You're helping these.
Who am I really?
You're helping.
Who am I really helping?
Yeah.
I mean,
the second layer. So I guess let me clarify. Like the second layer of influence, the third layer of influence. If you're getting these high level, some of these guys are probably running massive organizations, have large families, live in neighborhoods, they're well connected. So like, talk about how that drives you too. Those second and third tiers of influence.
I'm here for the impact. I'm here for impacting, I know it's like throwing a rock into an ocean, but there's a ripple effect, right? Like if I can change a person's perspective and have them buy into this excellence, I know that their marriage and their household's going to change. And I know if their household and marriage is going to change, that their community could change, right? Their neighborhood could change. And I know if their community could change, then maybe that could change a state. And I know this is like big type of out there thinking, but I know change starts with the individual and ripples outwards. And so my favorite testimonials are not, and we service both men and women, but all my advertising is to men. And then we have about 100 females in the program who are usually like wives of the men who are like, you got to do this too. And so my favorite testimonials are when a wife will find me on Instagram or Facebook and write a thank you because the change that she sees in her husband is something that completely blows her mind. And she's thanking me for the change that it's brought into the household. Like that is like my favorite testimonial, and it happens a lot, right? It's like, I know I can change these men, and then they're going to change the way they father and be a husband to their wives.
John, have you started adding that marketing to your social proof, interviewing the females, the moms, the wives?
Dude, it's like we were on the same thought as I was speaking. I was like, I have to do that because I was really picturing like probably 5 pieces of content that I have gotten from like in the past little bit of a paragraph, but taking that deeper and interviewing that person would be fire for marketing.
Those would be the next level testimonials, just the females. Yeah.
Yes, dude, as soon as we get off this, like I'm telling the marketing team, like I know exactly who we're going to do. So thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So how's the world going to look? You're going to eliminate this problem. You're on this mission. What's the broader vision that can energize and inspire your team so they know the good that they're contributing to, right? You've got this vision, it's clear. How do you communicate how the world's going to look like when you solve this problem?
Yeah, so when I name my company Superhuman, if you look that up in the dictionary, it says like superhuman, having powers above and beyond those of a normal human. Having powers above and beyond those of a normal human. So like our mission is to empower humanity. And it's almost to wake them up, right? To wake them up to this idea that we shouldn't accept ourselves how we are. That doesn't mean, that doesn't mean we don't love ourselves. That means that if we're really going to be fulfilled and happy, right? If we're going to really be fulfilled and happy and make a difference, we have to pursue our highest self, right? And our highest self is a superhuman, but our self now is usually an average human. So, what's the world going to look like? I want people to wake up and chase their highest self. And I know that would eradicate a ton of problems, right? Second layer problems, third layer problems, fourth layer problems. But you guys see it, just like the airport example. It's like you walk around and you see people dripping with mediocrity, right? That's not contributing to the goodness of the world. So I want to wake up and see superhumans everywhere.
I love it. And what are the primary services you provide? Let's maybe just dig into your product suite. Everybody wants to know. You have a couple of offers, just offer structure in terms of solving these problems.
Yeah, so two main parts of our business, and like full transparency here, like I know it's not about money, it's about impact and value, but you know, we're on track to do like 6 million this year, right? And that's not like there's plenty of companies that do more than that in the fitness realm. You know, that's not a small business, and we're capable of a lot more. But as far as product offerings, we have two main offers on the front end, right? And two main offers are both 90-day programs. Level 1 is a $4,500 program. Level 2 is a $10,000 program, right? Level 2 is what we call our inner circle. That's a little bit more access to me, right? And so again, if I'm speaking very narrowly to a certain audience, maybe 10% of our people will jump on that first offer. I mean, that inner circle offer. So that's speaking just fitness. Now, we both know, and I've tested this multiple times, if it was up to me, I would just sell year-long packages right up front. However, one of the obstacles in objections that people have is committing for a year. And so I actually, even though most people, I would want to sell a year package right up front, it's like 90 days is our dating period, right? And that's what we say on the sales call. It's like, look, we got to figure out if this is going to be a fit long-term. Of course, this isn't going to be 90 days to just completely shredded, depending on where you're at. If you have 50 pounds to lose, right? We want you to be in our ecosystem for at least a year. However, right, we got to see if we vibe together, because we don't want someone that doesn't keep their word. Like, we don't want you long-term if you don't keep your word, and you're not going to want to be around us if we don't keep our word. So we start with that 90-day program. And on the back end of that, we renew a person. And for anybody that's going to run paid traffic, that's like the second and third sell is where all the juice is at. So, you know, like if you're great and people want to stick with you, that's how you win with paid traffic. So there's that. And then you can ask questions on that in a second. But my second kind of product suite offering is in the mental programming route. And so a lot of people sell mindset and stuff, but I'll just tell you how this came about. 3 years ago, I was doing maybe $15,000 a month. And I knew I had a lot of the skill sets because I had paid for courses, I had practiced copywriting, I had put myself on video. I had a lot of the stuff set in place. But as far as I was concerned, I was severely underperforming. So a lot of people will tell you it's your mindset, right? It's like, well, you would succeed better if you had a better mindset. And so I was like, dude, like, you know, I have a fine mindset. I have jerseys hanging on the wall. Like I've succeeded at other things. And so I just didn't want to hear any of that talk for a long time, right? I read all the books. I could talk about the law of attraction. I could do all this stuff. But it finally occurred to me that I might have a mindset problem. And so I got referred to this gentleman who, was highly referred by two people that I respected, doesn't have a large following. And I ended up writing him a $40,000 check, and I had $50,000 to my name. Like, we had $50,000 on and my wife had watched me like pay for coaches over and over and over again. And so like this was something that, you know, I was very scared to do because it almost felt like I was pushing all the chips in all at the same time. And so we had agreed that we had this $50,000 rainy day fund that we were never going to go below. And then all of a sudden I get this opportunity to work with this coach. It was $40,000. And I decided to write a $40,000 check to him. And I remember him coming over because he lived in the same city. And I wrote hopefully that's not me. Hold on one second. Sorry about that, guys.
Oh, good. Bro.
So anyways, I wrote the check in red ink, and I remember the like trembly feeling of like giving it to him. I'm like, I don't know if this is going to, like, I have no idea. Right. Well, I don't even know what this guy is going to do. And our first session, he's like, what's the number? What's the goal? If you were to reach it, would make this check the most worth it thing that you've ever done. And without hesitation, I said $100,000 a month. And I don't know, like, to me, I think all of us have this idea that $100,000 a month or 83,333, that was the real goal, right? Like that $1 million is like it's like the 4-minute mile for us, right? It's like, if I could just do that, all my problems in life would go away. And so I'm like $100,000 a month. And so we went to work on it, right? And I had no idea how it was going to happen. I couldn't conceive like how it was actually going to happen because my current circumstance was $15,000 a month, right? So long story short, about 8 months into this this coaching with this gentleman, we hit 100 grand a month. And then very shortly after, you know, and he's really big on rewarding yourself when you hit a goal. So he's like, well, what are you going to do when you hit 200 grand a month? And I was like, well, dude, I just hit 100 and it took me almost 10 years to do. So I'm thinking like out maybe 5 years, like maybe I could half the time. And he's like, it's probably going to happen faster than you think. And so literally in like a short 3 or 4 months after, like we skipped 200 and hit 365. And I was like, so my business like just exploded 5x and then tripled again. And then it's like been on this trajectory where it's like just completely taken off. And I learned the whole time that all the whole time I was holding myself back. Like my mindset was truly a problem. I wasn't charging what I was worth. I was charging what I thought people would pay. I had all this junk in my mind. And this guy is like a mental programmer, and he went in and ripped all the doubt out of me. He ripped all the fear out of me. He ripped those negative emotions, like, and it was like, I just started to freely express myself without fear or judgment or like fear of criticism or anything like that. Right. And then overnight, it felt like the ads started to work, and I was bringing sales in, and all that stuff happened. So because of that experience, a couple years into it, and this person's become one of my great friends, I was like, dude, I need all of my people that have got the fitness stuff down now. I need them to experience what I experienced, because I don't know about any of you. If you can go through life with fear and doubt, almost like it, I don't feel it. Like if I feel it, it comes up and I can get rid of it very quickly. Right. And so I'm like, I need these people to go through this. And I'm like, what if we just create a small group? And I know you're very expensive, but like, if we do it in a group setting, can we get, 20 people in the room? And he's like, let's do it. And so that turned into, that was about 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. And now we have a portion of our program for the people that really want to go down that, real mental programming mindset stuff, where we have an ascension program where it's all that. And so 2 parts of my business, front end is all fitness. We don't really talk about the other stuff that much until, they want to talk about it. And then we have this whole other deal that is grown into a pretty big thing on its own.
That's really cool, man. It's cool how you aligned with him on that vision, mission, and he was happy to come on board. I think there's an opportunity for everybody there with people in their circle. I've done a lot of collaborations over the years with tons of individuals. And it's just, who would you rather make money with? Friends.
Yeah.
I can't think of anybody better to make money with than your friends or people who've actually helped you. They're getting the best stamp of endorsement. So I love that. So with regards to, you touched on the product suite. It's really solid. I like that model. And maybe just speak to somebody who's now thinking, oh, maybe I should change my model, and maybe just speak to the power of like why it works. Like you and I both know any model can work. It's how you position it. It's how much you promote this positioning of the way it's set up. Just speak to that so people don't think, oh, I need to change my offer now, because there's a million different ways to structure your offer.
Dude, so good, man. And this is the hardest. This is a hard part for me, because there's the mechanics and tactical side, which of course are important, but there's many ways to skin a cat, right? There's different ways that we can do that. But I think what it really comes down to, honestly, is like, and I'm going to be super truthful with everybody. It's how you fill your days up, 1, and 2, how you see yourself. It's like this idea of self-image seems kind of out there, but no matter what strategy, I could give you my strategy. Vince could give you his strategy that he made multiple 7 figures. Unless you see yourself as worthy of your goals and you start operating at the same frequency of your goals, you're not going to hit them. Because you set a goal that 100 grand a month, like lives at this frequency, right? But if I'm operating out of my current paradigm, there's this disconnect, right? And so you don't get your goals, you meet them. But in order to meet them, you've got to rise up, right? So you have to start acting, thinking, and making decisions based on this higher frequency, right? And so long story short, one of the first courses that I ever bought was a $12,000 course. I remember having to take my wife out to dinner and ordering a beer, and like she's like, "You're acting weird. What's going on?" And I was like, I just bought this course and it was $12,000, and babe, like they're going to teach me how to create leads and, sell this $5,000 program, and dude, we're going to be rich. Right. And she's just like, dude, not again. Right. Like, here we go again. And my wife is spectacular, by the way, but they taught me how to do Facebook ads, drive to a landing page, do a webinar, schedule an appointment, application, sales call, close, $5,000. Right. The problem and the excuse that I came up with, because it was working for some people, it just wasn't working for me, was that nobody's going to buy a fitness program for $5,000. I've sold 25. Someone just purchased a program with me the other day. And it was $72,000, right? So it's like back then, $5,000. And I remember getting on these mindset calls and I'm like, you guys are all doing business to business though. This isn't the same thing. Like, you're B2B, I'm B2C. And they were like, you got a mindset problem. And I'm like, no, I don't. You guys are liars. It's B2C. You know what I mean? It's like, you guys are selling business to business. They'll drop $10,000. Nobody is going to buy a $5,000 fitness program. Like, before this call is over, my Slack channel will probably go off a couple times and it'll be like $5,000 sales. So what I'm trying to get at is that was probably 2016, 17. I'm basically have ran the same funnel that I built myself on ClickFunnels for the past 2.5 years, that drives a person to watch a 10-minute video. The 10-minute video speaks truth and fire. From there, they schedule a call, fill out an application. We close them for $4,500 on the front end, or $10,000. So the mechanics and tactical stuff is essentially the same thing that I learned in 2016. However, I had these stories and reasons and excuses of why I couldn't do something. And here's the gold. I didn't see myself as worthy of those goals, of that person spending $5,000. I had a scarcity problem. My lens, like, we don't see with our eyes, we see with our beliefs. And so I was seeing the world as people who would never spend that kind of money. Now, like, you talk to me and I'm like, I'm surrounded by abundance. Like, abundance is raining down on me, right? And so, like, all of that stuff is what I had to rip out. So you ask the question, like, what tactic, strategy? It's like, my advice to everybody here is like, you have to raise how you view yourself. You have to become worthy of whatever it is you want. And at that point, almost anything will work.
Dude, that was gold, man. Tell me about your 1-year plan.
1-year plan. So we rely very heavily on paid traffic. So that, like, if I'm a one-trick pony, it's like paid traffic is my jam, because I know exactly how much it costs to get a lead, to have a schedule, to fill out an application, and then ultimately how to turn $1 into, think about this. In the beginning, when I was doing this, Facebook was a little bit less expensive. And so it was very, very easy for me to spend, if I spent $100,000, I could, bring in $200,000 on that front end. And then it was worth like $400,000 after the 3 months. Anybody would do that, right? Everybody's like, dude, sign me up for that. The problem most people have is that if I'm spending $3,000 a day on Facebook ads, if I go 3 days without a sell, it's like $9,000 in the hole, right? And so you can't just audit, like, a person's not usually, unless they have a ton of capital, going to be able to spend that much money right off the bat. So it's like, what I did was, I'm going to spend $5,000 a month and see from that $5,000, like, what comes out of it. And so I'd spend $5,000, make $15,000, be like, awesome, right? Like, of course, let's do it again. So I challenged myself to double the ad spend the next month. Let's see what happens if I spend $10,000. Will I make 30? Right? And it's like, yes, I did it. Okay, let's spend $20,000. And as you go up, there's always I always notice this in people. There's like a threshold where you get a little bit like scared. If like the sales don't come in, you start going right back to scarcity and like, oh my God, this isn't working. And you pull out of the market. Right? So I get really excited in fitness because I feel like at the bottom, it's super, super, super crowded. I feel like it's like such a crowded marketplace. But as you ascend through it, and it's like, I'm spending $3,000 a day nonstop. And if I don't make a sale for a whole week, I'm just tweaking stuff nonstop. I'm all in, right? And there's not many people willing to do that, right? So I've been very heavily reliant on that paid traffic. And of course we get referrals and organic stuff. A year from now, I want to have some of the most powerful strategic partnerships, collaborations with people in this space to where I'm sharing traffic and it's a win-win situation for multiple different people. So now instead of having a couple lines in the ocean, it's like I have multiple stuff. Right. So as far as like strategy goes, in a year, we're working diligently on creating that, and that's happening. I also want to get away from only offering service-based programs. And there's a product suite that I'm super excited about that I think the marketplace is going to geek out about. So that and some apparel stuff, because to me, it's the movement is superhuman, and now we're just adding different components, doing it at the right time. So that a year from now, that's what we're working on.
Okay, 3-year picture.
3-year vision. So 3-year vision. 3-year vision, man. I think really big. I think in numbers, and so for me, like I'm thinking like I want a $50 million business 3 years from now. And I know that's just numbers, because here's the thing. I've given up on how a long time ago. If somebody would have said, John, like in order to play, like if you were to ask me what I wanted to do in 7th grade, I'd say be a professional athlete. Like stone cold face. I've told that to teachers. I told that to coaches. I told that to everybody. Yeah. Nobody would have advised me to not play high school football and then make it to the NFL. Right? I don't need to know A, B, C, D, E, F, G, how to do everything. I've given up on the how. I set my sights on a target and I'm open to opportunity. So if I want a $50 million business, I don't know exactly what that looks like, but I do know that I do know that it's going to involve products. There's going to be an apparel brand. Superhumans are going to be, we're going to grow from 600 customers to thousands. Right. And there's also 3 years from now going to be a really dope headquarters in Scottsdale, Arizona, right where I live. That is it's going to be, I mean, there's going to be VR stuff for our mental programming coaching. There's going to be a dope gym that is like not open for public use. That's for me and my team only. Right. So we can film cool stuff. And it's like a heaven on earth for me and my team. And then a couple different businesses that are in the entertainment and health space. So we've already got that project going, and it's probably a 3-year build. So that's what I'm excited about 3 years from now.
John, that's freaking killer, man. There's a strategic reason I asked that question too. How many of you all listening are contemplating just going to go work for John? Is John hiring right now? How many of you guys thought of that?
I tell you, Vince, dude, like this is a real thing. Some people are entrepreneurs and that's awesome. But some people are intrapreneurs and that's awesome too. Like there's place in the marketplace for intrapreneurs that can go into a company and add massive value and get the security and some upside at the same time.
Yeah.
Like if I wasn't so much of an entrepreneur, I would actually really consider that, because I see some people that are trying to be entrepreneurs that would be like, man, they're so skilled and they're like, that they're just got a little different skill set, and there's a ton of upside in different companies, ton of upside if you provide enough value with security. And then there's some of you who are like, no, I'm full blown entrepreneur. Like I literally got to go chase this thing. And that's good too. I just think the sooner you understand where you're truly at, then you can seek the right opportunity.
Right. And you can be, an entrepreneur. We call it entrepreneur. You can be your own entrepreneur under an entrepreneur's business, just names. And the reason I'm so glad you shared that vision is because you see how his vision is so big, it can fit other people's visions underneath him. That's an Ed Milet quote. And I think that's super cool. When you start thinking bigger, you create opportunities for more people. And this is what's going to draw people into your world. When you talk about the future, people are like, wow, this guy's going somewhere. I got to get on this. I got to get on the bus here. And I think that's so crucial. Like a lot of us just lose sight of, guys, it's not that complicated, right? Have a clear vision, ooze with vision, and people are going to follow. So let me ask you maybe a more personal question, just in terms of, the day-to-day battles that have to be won. We know that this is not easy, simple, but not easy. What do you need less of or more of just in your own organization in terms of achieving these? What would be some of the gaps that you're looking to close and solve?
Yeah. So again, this can be tactical or more mindset based. And I'm probably always going to go more to the latter, right? Like we all need less distraction. We all need less. I always like doubt, distraction, right? Mm. Doubt and distraction are like the killers of joy, right? They're the killers of progress. And so I think that distraction is something that I battle myself personally, and of course the people on my team will too, right? Like we got these phones and there's Instagram and there's a million different ideas and there's a million different shiny objects. And I had this conversation with my wife yesterday about comparison, right? And I told her we got to be very careful not to chase ghosts. And she's like, what do you mean chase ghosts? And I'm like, there's a lot of people online right now and you see their lives and you see how perfect it is. And you see, the groups that they hang out with and all the stuff that they do, and they're telling you what to do. But behind closed doors, like a lot of it's smoke and mirrors. Right. And so we got to be very careful not to chase ghosts, meaning like chase lives that aren't even real. Right. And so she's like, and so we're really on the same page there. It's like, I need to be undistracted about the stuff that's going on around me and relentlessly focused. Right. And not just focused, but focused on what I want. Right. Focused on what I want. If I could give any of you guys an assignment that would probably be maybe difficult for some, maybe not difficult for some, it would be to get a list of 100 material things that you want, right? Not that you think you could have, but like if you had a genie and it's like, I'm going to rub this genie 100 material things. And I'm not saying you need to be materialistic. There's a purpose to this. And then a separate list of 100 experiences, right? So that's 200 things of wants. And part of that is the power of writing down something. Like it will blow your mind 2 years from now of some of the stuff that happens from just being intentional about it. But there's another conversation that I want you to pay attention to. And that's that what comes up when you get the 15 things and you're like, John, I don't need anything anymore. Like I have everything I need. And you feel what's the word there? Dang it. There's a good word and I forgot it, but you feel like proud of yourself that you don't want anything else. It's like, I got the life I want. Right. Mm-hmm. And I'm not telling you have to want anything. What this is that, like for me, this is an exercise of focusing, of relentlessly focusing and paying attention to the stuff that I want in my life. Right. Where most people focus on all the stuff that they don't want. Right. All the stuff that they don't want to happen, or they're constantly settling. Right. I'm training my the unconscious part of me to focus relentlessly on the stuff that I want. And so what I have to eliminate as a company and as, personally is distractions about all the ghosts out there. And then also not paying attention to the stuff that could go wrong, might go wrong. And, focusing on all the world's problems. It's relentless focus, like a laser beam. Right. And that exercise helps you like get focused and see what conversation comes up there.
Dude, that's such a breath of fresh air, man. I've been in this space for 16 years, so I've seen now I'm dealing with buddies who are going through divorces, and my kids were friends with their still are friends with their kids. And now when we go see them, we go see the dad on one day, then the mom on a different day. And they've got all this money in the world, 2 separate mansions, but they're not happy. And the wife says privately behind closed doors, I'd give all this up if I could just have them back. And you and I hear these stories day and night. And but people, these are the people everyone looks up to, though. That's what you're saying too. And I think
exactly.
I'm going to ask you one more question, and then let's do some Q&A, because I can see the chat lighting up here, and I want to make sure our listeners get what they need. So last one here for me. What's crucial to keep intact for you? You know, I'd say, you know, character wise, and just knowing like yourself. Again, asking you a vulnerable question here, but you know, for me, I could easily kick my family to the curb and then lose everything, because I'm an achiever. I find my identity in work and accomplishment. I don't find my identity in relationship and in connection. It's something I'm learning, and it's a muscle that I have never really developed. What about you? What area in your personal life do you just have to have other men's eyes on, or need accountability around, just to make sure that you're the strong, confident leader that will be undenied?
I think the thing that's most important to me is at this moment is discernment. And you guys will feel that as I've ascended, it's like I get pulled in a lot of different directions, right? And it's like money becomes pretty easy to make at a certain point, which wasn't always the case. And so there's opportunity everywhere. And I would my real brothers, I'm like, give me and God discernment, right? To know what to say yes to and what to say no to, because the most important thing to me is integrity and reputation. Because I always say reputation precedes revenue, right? And you can break your reputation very, very quickly. And so if I say no if I say yes to the wrong things that might be something that would be easily, you know, another million or something, it's like I could break my reputation and integrity, and that would be something that would be devastating to the person that I want to be. So I would just say discernment is like what I want people to like look after me with. And that's I'm not going to lie to you, it gets harder as you ascend up, because there's all these different opportunities and directions you get pulled in, and I think people lose their way when they lose discernment.
John, that was outstanding. Let's do some Q&A. What's helped you overcome a scarcity mindset, or advice for somebody with a scarcity mindset? And I can relate to this. Just I want to make sure, like, I've gone through this. I'm working through this too. I'm like, I have these massive days, and the next day it's low, and you're panicking. You're like, oh my God, what's happening? So just you know, maybe some strategies or any experiences you've had to improve that, eliminate that small time thinking, or at least manage it.
Yeah, you know, I've had some experiences that have served me well. I'll just kind of start this. Like, my dad's the type of person that would drive past 10 gas stations to save 10 cents on gas. Like, he'll drive to the Costco gas station, drives me bananas, like literally drive 30 extra minutes because he wants to save 10 cents, right? And so if you can imagine, like, when you're 0 to 7 years old, you have no critical faculty, you accept everything. And so, like, depending on what your parents did or said or lived, or what you saw on TV or whatever, it's like that gets lodged into your unconscious. And then multiply that to living in the same household until I was, you know, 20 years old. It's like scarcity was built into me, right? Built into me. When I got to the NFL, like, I finally got there, I was scoring touchdowns. I remember, like, the Oakland Raiders was one of the last teams that didn't do, this was 2006, one of the last teams that didn't do direct deposit. And so I would get these game checks. And if you don't know this, like, NFL players get paid in 17 weeks. So their salary over a year gets paid during the game weeks. And so, like, my salary the first year was like $300,000. I was 23 years old. I, you know, thought I might as well be a millionaire or billionaire. I had no idea what that money looked like, but I was getting these game checks, and after taxes, they were about like $10,000 a pop. Right. And, I remember having like 8 of them stacked up. I was like, I didn't even want to put them in the bank. right? It was like, I saw the Raiders logo and 10 grand and I'm like, damn, I got 10, I got 20, I got 30, I got 40. I just want to like hoard it, right? Like it was crazy to me. And I know why I got released at the end of my third year. It was like I started playing prevent defense with my life. It was like I got to the point and I got to the dream, and then I just wanted to like strangle it, right? I wanted to keep it. And when I wanted to do that, I couldn't play freely, right? It was like I was overran, I was in my head, everything that I did. And so so when I got cut, I had like $300,000 like in a bank. That was like, I didn't have millions. I spent 100 grand on a house down payment. And then I spent another 100 grand on a gym. And so I had 100 grand left, and I opened up this business and I had no clients. And I had to support my own life. And so I was like, didn't have a terrible burn rate. I was spending probably 10 grand a month, right? But I knew every month I was like counting down to zero. I was like, all I could think about was hitting zero. All I could focus on is like this tragic story of me making it and then not making it, hitting zero. And the best thing that ever happened to me is like, I literally remember this day. It was like February. It's usually like dark and gray in Salt Lake City in February. But for whatever reason, the sun was shining. It was like probably, 40 degrees, and I'm driving. And that was the day my bank account hit zero. And it was like, I was this NFL star and I hit zero, right? At this point, I wasn't married. I didn't have kids. So that was, a plus. But I remember relief. Like I had the weight of the world on me. And then I was relieved. I had to shut down my first gym. In the middle of the night, we went and got all the equipment. I stored it in my garage and sold it for pennies. I would take anything. And I'll never forget that, because I had to go through that experience and then I rebuilt myself. If someone looks at me and they're like, John, you got a lot of confidence, man. Like you drip it. It's like, because I had to reinvent myself. I had to reinvent myself multiple times, right? And so now I play the game of life and I keep reminding myself this. And that's why it's one of my core values. Always focus on what you want, because I refuse to play prevent defense with my life right now. Right. So if I don't have that fear if I lost it all, because I know in my heart of hearts that that's not going to happen. And even if it did, I'd reinvent myself again. Right. So I think a lot of people are afraid of this like skeleton or this fear that's not even really real. Right. Where I already had I had that happen to me. So like that was like a blessing on my life. And so I'll answer the real question now. I think that story was powerful for some of you, but how do you, like, if you are feeling scarce, it's for like, you're afraid of something, right? And so we have to peel that back a little bit. Like, what actually are you afraid of if you went to zero, right? And it's like, oh, dang, like, my family wouldn't eat. That's a real fear, right? But a lot of the times it's like, if I failed and nobody was there to see it, not my wife, not my family, not my friends, not all the people on social, it's like the natural reaction would be like to learn from it and just try again. So the real fear that I think that people have around this is like the fear of what other people are going to say about it, of your failure. And so if you can get rid of that, you can start living your life in a very powerful type of way. And so then you have to start thinking about your mind as a garden. Every day you're making decisions and you're having thoughts and you're acting and you're planting seeds in that garden. And you're either going to plant seeds of scarcity or you're going to plant abundance. So you can't just go through like this webinar and be like, make a decision that you're going to be abundant forever for the rest of your life. It's repetition over and over again. Right? If I was programmed in my come up with my parents with scarcity, right? Now all of my decisions have to be made where I know I'm planting seeds of abundance. So everything that I listen to is I'm listening to mentors who speak abundance. I'm listening to stuff like this that can change the way that I think, right? And then I'm making certain decisions that I'm watching my actions. Because it's the awareness that like you can't change unless you're aware of the problem in the first place, right? Let's say, for example, I wanted to hire Vince and it was like $20,000 or whatever it is. It's probably, I don't even know what it is, but let's just act like it's that. And let's say that I have a bank account that has way more money in it than that. Maybe I had 100K or 80K. If I asked for a payment plan, it presupposes scarcity. So it's something you don't think of. It's like, oh, Vince, can you break it up, man? It's like, I actually have 80, but if I lose 20, it's like that's acting out of scarcity, right? And I know this, if you're acting out of scarcity, you're going to get more scarcity, right? An abundant play would be like, Vince, here's a $20,000 check. Let's roll, right? Same thing when I finally hired that mentor, is like, I had 50,000, I gave him 40. That's an abundant bet. So you have to watch all of your, all of this stuff that you do. And if you notice, if you have that awareness that you're acting out of scarcity, the law of polarity states that everything has an opposite, right? So if I'm acting scarce and I notice it, bam, I'm going to do the opposite. And it's not like it never goes away, dude. I learned my first big business lesson last year with the IRS my accountant sent an email telling me how much I owed the IRS. And I was like, if I thought I was abundant, I got scarce real fast for a second. Luckily, I have two mentors, dude. I have two mentors that I pay money to, right? And I said, hey guys, like, this is what happened, man. I'm feeling scarce, right? Because I have that awareness.
Oh.
And both of them said, John, write the check in full. Because I was thinking about filing an extension. I was like, how can I, you know what I mean? And they're like, no, because I wanted that money all over again. I was like, I had it, but I wanted it. I wanted it to sit there all safe, right? And my one mentor said, write the check today, wire the money today, and bless it on the way out. Money moves in and through you. And I was just like, damn, that's why I pay you for. I don't want to do this, but you're right. It's like, right? And it's amazing when you act like that, how much flows back in. And so don't take my word for it, practice it, and then watch how much more flow you have when you're acting out of that state of abundance.
Dude, that's outstanding, man. I could listen to you all day, man. This is so freaking good. I'm going to give one more question to you. This one's from a beginner, maybe a higher level response, big picture response, which I assume you'll do, not tactical, but complete beginner here. They're at the starting level. Think back to, well, way before when I met at Jason Capital's event. We were just trying to figure this out where, I had a dad who said, are you going to be a personal trainer when you're 35? And when I started making money, I said, I got my first check. A week later, he'd call me and say, did that check go through? so even to today, 16 years later, it's like, how much longer do you think this is going to last? So I know a lot of people here probably surrounded by people that have never seen somebody successful online. Advice to somebody at the beginner stages, what should their mindset be?
Yes. So I always think about this, like, this is how I live my life, right? There's people that are going to go through life and they don't believe that they can do it, right? That's belief number one, right? If you have that belief, like, you're not going to succeed. Belief number two is that John can do it, but I can't do it because I didn't play in the NFL because blah, 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 tons of reasons, right? And I used to operate with that belief. It'd be like, Vince can do it. And regardless of my story, like, I can't do it because X, Y, and Z. Those guys can sell $5,000 programs because they're selling B2B. I'm selling B2C. See, it's like that belief system is where most people are at, right? And then the third belief system that I choose is, if one person can do it, I can do it too. So, like, if I see one other person doing this, and that person, for me, honest, like, there was a person where I actually got to listen to their sales calls. And at the time they were selling like $3,000 packages. And it was blowing my mind that I would listen to these calls and people were purchasing. And I was like, I had to have a person like show me so that then I could believe that I could do it. So I would find the person that can help you believe that it's possible. That's huge. And then number two, don't discount all the skill sets that you're going to have to acquire, right? It's like, if you're new and you're willing to succeed no matter what, you're going to have to learn how to write in a way that influences people. You're going to have to live in a way that influences people. You're going to have to learn how to do video in a way that makes you feel uncomfortable at first. You're going to have to learn how to do all of this stuff. And at a certain point, right, if you're worthy of your goal, right, you'll become that person who's worthy of receiving it. So there's a ton of skill sets that are going to need to be built, right? That's like, even if you had the best mindset in the world, if you don't have skill set, you're not going to win, right? So you're going to need to acquire the skill sets. You're going to have to know what those are specifically. And then at the same time, if you could have all the skill set in the world, and if your mindset sucks, like, you're not going to succeed either. So it's mindset and skill set and action that's going to actually take you to the promised land.
Let's give him a big round, guys. That was amazing, man. I hope you can hear the virtual applause. John, that was outstanding, brother. Where can people follow you, and how can people follow your work?
Yeah, absolutely. Best place probably is at John Madsen Official on Instagram. That I'll share all of my stuff there. And then the podcast, I have about 250 episodes. It's not interview style. So if you liked anything, like, bits and pieces of what I said today, it's usually 10 to 20 minutes of me just like sharing what I shared today. It's called The Show with John Madsen. And so that's where you can kind of get into my mind, but Instagram is going to share, everything else, and feel free to interact with me. Love to help.
And then you'll probably start getting retargeting. You'll see his badass marketing guys. So that would be wise for you to follow him and check it out. And thank you guys for all the tags. You guys are tagging us, hashtagging Vision Day. Thank you so much. We just want to help more and more people with a positive message. So John, you rock, brother, man. We got to connect more often, man.
Let's do it. Thanks, brother. Appreciate you. Thanks, everybody. And go get what's yours.
Boom. All right, guys.